Now, our next guest heads up one of America's best-known industrial bellwethers. 3M is a manufacturing conglomerate with interests in consumer products, electronics, renewable energy, and healthcare. It provides components for Apple's iPad, as well as solar panels. And of course, it's a company behind the ubiquitous Post-it note. Last year, about 70% of 3M's $27 billion in sales were generated outside the U.S., and it continues to invest overseas to grow its business. In April, the company said it would spend most of its capital budget outside America for the first time in its 109-year history as it chases sales in emerging markets. Well, 3M Chief Executive George Buckley joins us now from the London Business School, where international executives are meeting to debate innovation and entrepreneurship. George Buckley, thank you so much for joining us. How do you rate the current economic environment? It must be tough for a company such as 3M that is really catering for everything that we use in day-to-day. If you have austerity measures and if people crack down on the unessential spending, how affected are you?
Well, we believe that innovation is the way to sort of separate ourselves from the pack, so to speak. And obviously we invest in overseas markets, in high growth markets, in high growth spaces. So perhaps we're to a lesser extent affected than maybe some other companies.
But are you concerned in general about talk about a possible recession? In the US, it doesn't seem that business friendly. Here in Europe, we talk about a debt crisis resurfacing. It must be very testing times for 3M.
Well, I think it's, most of us in my position have some kind of worries about the economy. We always do. It's a perpetual worry that we have, and obviously there are circumstances which are happening today that are unusual. We have the issues in Japan and the knock-on effects of the tsunami. We have the unrest in the Middle East. We have the issue of high oil, of high commodity prices. We have the issues of the European debt crisis. And obviously I think we are going to be concerned that those things can be handled by the economy and they won't disrupt things too much. But we're in the position of so far so good, but obviously we have to be cautious about the future.
But what is your biggest concern? Inflation, costs are rising in commodities, for example.
It's probably the rising commodity costs would be my greatest concern, but I would only offer you one sort of reassuring point, and that is we use a phrase inside our company that the solution to high prices is high prices. It always forces sort of redresses in the economy, in consumption. It forces companies like ours to figure out new ways to use less of these materials or use substitute materials. So there are always some sort of corrective forces at work that can help mitigate these things. Usually I find in life that my greatest dreams, my worst fears don't come true.
And, a lot of the times that I speak to CEOs, what they tell me as their other big concern is, of course, their legacy, who replaces them once they leave. Now, I understand you're going to be moving on fairly soon. How concerned are you about who you're going to be passing the baton to?
Well, you have a set of ideas when you're running a company, and you hope that what you've done is to train the people that work with you in such a way that they're going to carry on that process. And I think the likelihood of that happening is much more strong when the potential successor is an internal candidate, not an external candidate, which in our case it is. So, these are good people. I know them very, very well. I've worked with them very closely for many, many years, and I don't have a lot of doubt about their ability or their willingness to continue the kind of stretch for growth that we've been pursuing. What
do you want your legacy to be? I know you've talked in the past about these zombie products, about these products that you continue making, but then actually don't really generate many sales and that just create confusion and disorder. What's on the chopping block? Have you already gotten rid of some of these zombie products?
Yes, we have. But I think you asked the question about legacy. I don't really think it's about the individual, candidly speaking. I think it's important that we set the company up for success. It's much more about what is right rather than who is right. It's not about the individual in a great corporation like 3M, and I think it's important to make sure that it's not all about one person. It's about a group, about a leadership team, about an idea. that you pursue, and not about a single individual.
George Buckley, if you look at the United States and if you look at Europe, what continent poses the most problems for your company in terms of growth?
I didn't catch the question, forgive me.
What country actually has the most problems for you to grow?
Well, it's typically the modernized Western economies. Oddly enough, Germany isn't that, and to a lesser extent the United States isn't that. The big European economies are the ones that we struggle with perhaps most. Great Britain having lower growth, France having lower growth, and perhaps to a lesser extent Italy. Obviously Japan has a temporary issue, and was for us growing quite rapidly prior to the earthquake and tsunami. Mm-hmm. And Japan has had its problems over the years, so those big economies are the ones you traditionally worry about.
George Buckley, a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much.